Welcome
Hello.
to tonight's book talk.
Hello. Oh, did the music go down? It was still there.
I don't hear anything, so do you still hear it? Weird.
It's
Not playing on
echoing.
my side.
Everything is echoing.
Let me just try to mute myself. Can you hear me now without an echo?
I'm going to exit and come back in. That might help. Hold on.
We're so awkward. If anyone's watching and they would like to let us know if it's tinny for them, that would be great.
Okay, I figured out what it was.
Did you have it on another browser?
Yes, I did. So I had two browsers. And I was like, what is happening? And this echo. Anyway, hi, everyone. I'm glad to have you
Perfect.
here.
Welcome to tonight's book talk. I'm Melissa Peters. I'm the author of a cozy horror young adult novel called House on Highland Road. And tonight I'm joined by Samantha Osei.
Hi, and I am a writer I'm currently working on a romantic suspense and hope to have that published by the end of the year.
Awesome. And tonight we are talking about the book we most recently just read. My spoken words do not correlate to my written words. We read The Resort by Sara Ochs.
Yes.
It was her debut novel, and I'll just read a short synopsis. Brooke is getting to know the permanents on a remote island resort in Thailand. A few weeks before she arrived, a woman mysteriously dies falling off the mountain. Suddenly, another guest winds up dead. Then another. Brooke and Cass, a permanent Brooke is befriending, investigate the deaths until Brooke begins to wonder if she can even trust Cass.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Was that the back of the
um,
book? I don't think I read the back. Was that the back of the
oh,
book?
that wasn't the back. The back is very complicated. So one, leave the past behind. When Cass sets foot on the coast of Thailand's world-famous Party Island, she's searching for an escape. With dark secrets following her every move, Koh Sang becomes the perfect place to hide. Two, always be careful who you trust. Now, years later, Cass is a local dive instructor alongside the Permanents, a group of expats who have claimed the island as their own. The Permanents don't linger on who they were before the island, simply because, like Cass, they all have something to outrun. Three, if someone discovers who you really are, run. But suddenly, a dive student is found dead and paradise comes crashing down, because this isn't the first mysterious death on the island, and it won't be the last. Someone knows who Cass is, and they're ready to make sure that justice is finally served.
I do like the blurb.
I do feel like the blurb starts earlier than the book does.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I just realized that my questions didn't sync up.
Oh,
So I'll do my best to follow along.
sure, no problem.
Um,
We'll figure it out.
yeah. What was your favorite part of the book?
Well, so for me, I've done scuba diving before. I've taken multiple classes. So I think the part where they're doing the diving class, all of that was very familiar to me. And so I was able to relate to it. And then going into kind of this island setting, whatnot, though my classes were not in an island, they were in Colorado, which is very vastly different than an island. But then going, like having had trips on islands, etc., I could really relate to those things. So it brought a lot of kind of nostalgia for me in that. And the good thing is that I stayed alive in the process. So hence why I'm here today.
That's great. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I haven't done scuba diving. I'm sure I would die in the process. Um, But I have done some swimming in. I haven't been to Thailand. It's on my bucket list. But I was in the Philippines and I did some swimming off
Oh,
the coast
nice.
there,
Okay.
and the water is so clear and warm and beautiful.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
only imagine how gorgeous it is.
Yeah. It's exactly.
Yeah. For me, my favorite part, I think it's a very she does a lot of description in the book, and I enjoyed that. There was one part where they're breaking into one of the victims' rooms, and somebody comes to the door and they have to hide, and I found that quite suspenseful, so I enjoyed that part.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah. Who was your favorite character and why?
So I didn't really have a favorite character, but I had a few not so favorite characters. Um, but specifically my very least favorite character. So I'm going to twist the question,
Mm,
because all of them are kind of the same on one level, but Frederick, who is the owner of the hotel, um, is definitely my least favorite character, and I'm sure that's exactly kind of what the author was trying to get across anyway. But it was almost so much so that I was like very drawn back whenever he was on the page, because whatever he was saying, the way that he was acting was so counter to how I maneuver in life that it was very just opposite. So, and repulsive to me.
hmm I think I'm gonna butcher his name. Um, Singfat, Singfit. I don't know how you say it. Um, he is a bartender. He's kind of like up early in the morning, stays late at night, hard worker. He's there to provide for his family.
Hmm.
He's from Vietnam and he's working in Thailand, and he wants his family to come over. And that's really all you know about this guy. I think he's probably my favorite character, and I wish we would have had more of him in the book.
Hmm.
I also wish we would have had more locals. So the book is set in Thailand, but every single character except for Singfet is from another
Country. Yeah.
European or North American country. So,
Right. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but that's a very good point. They mention locals or whatnot, but yeah, even the locals aren't the ones running the businesses,
mhm.
which
Yeah. So even if you had them talking to like a maid or going to the local grocer and picking up some food and talking to the vendor there, like that,
right,
I would have liked more of the cultural aspect to come into play.
right,
That's why I go to a different country, not just for the scenery. I want to
right,
know customs and cultures. So,
right. Yes, and that definitely was not prominent throughout the book. It was definitely more of everything was Eastern, definitely not Eastern. It was definitely more
is that?
European,
Yeah.
European and North American. Even with like the classes that they had, like yoga, etc.,
Mm.
available. So yeah, that's a very, very good point.
Yeah, it just occurred to me now as I was thinking about it. I was like, why weren't there more? Like I
Hmm.
want more Thai culture.
Right.
Um, did the ending resolve all of your questions, or did it leave some things unanswered?
Well, so, Melissa and I were kind of talking about this before we started, and it did answer all the questions, but it was very unsatisfying how they were answered. I think um, it almost felt really, I guess the right word is rush at the end of, because of the climax that was happening. There was a lot of chaos at the very end, and then things occurred with what we thought was a resolution, but it really wasn't the resolution, you know. Um, and so therefore, it was just like, okay, yes, but it was really left for want
Mhm.
more, like a different type of resolution that was really satisfying, which I just did not get from this.
Yeah, I felt like it was rushed. I've written manuscripts. I've only published one book so far, but I've written manuscripts where I get to the finish the climax and I get to the end and I've got to wrap everything up now and I'm like, I just want this book to be done. Because I've done the exciting part. Um, and I kind of felt like that's what happened here is it like let's just
Mhm.
wrap it all up now. But I
Mhm.
wouldn't have minded um more chapters. Like even if there was another 2 or 3 chapters tying everything up,
Right,
I think that would have done the book well. Because you're right, it did feel very, very rushed.
right. And yeah, rushed in parts, and then just kind of like some of the timing in general, I think over the last half of the book, it could have felt less rushed if she started, I guess, tying up some of the ends a little earlier. So I think that's probably why. Because most of the times you start, kind of in the middle of the book to start tying up certain loose ends, and then it rolls out into, if you're a great writer, which I'm not yet, but rolls
Me
out
either.
into aha. So
Yeah,
that's the goal
yeah.
anyway.
And I'm working. I just started for fun. I'm not going to devote tons of time to it just yet, but I just started working on a thriller I've been um, mulling over for a couple of years now. And reading this, I was like, how am I going to put my pieces together?
Mm,
Because
yeah.
right now I'm going to write each storyline separately and then tie them all together. But because there's a lot of characters and a lot of moving parts in this book, and so reading it, I was like, how am I going to, when it's time for me to pull everything together, how am I going to do it? And
Yeah, and that's
what decisions will I make? Will I have a prologue?
we know that you're not having a prologue. We know that.
After we talked the other day, though, I was like, I should have maybe I should have a prologue for my book. And then I was like, I don't like prologues.
I'm just going to rename my prologue chapter 1 and go from there, so that way
And
you'll
then I won't get upset with you.
um I have kind of a similar challenge with the suspense that I'm writing, because there's like certain things that are happening, and I think, and since I do have 2 points of view, 2 main characters, and trying to understand, okay, what does this one character know and not know, and how does this look to that character, and then be able to put that into the storyline. Yeah, there's some people think writing fiction is easy, and I just don't agree. Because of the
Yeah,
things like that, when you're trying to tie things together, and not that anyone's perfect at doing it, but it just takes a lot of skill to do it really, really well. So
yeah. I hope I can pull it together.
yeah,
Fingers
me
crossed.
too.
Oh, I'm trying to like scroll down on my phone with my mouse. That was fun. Um, what were your thoughts on the book structure and flow of events?
Okay, so kind
I
of
guess
what
we kind of just touched on
yeah,
that a little bit.
yeah, we did, but I would say definitely with the structure. So one thing I did like is that she did it, like a lot of books are doing these days, is when the point of view changes, she labels the chapter heading. That's the name of the characters whose point of view it is. And that's what I do in my book as well, because that's kind of the convention right now to do that. But that's very helpful. Um, and so that, and then again, kind of leaning towards the end, it was that rush, and it felt like some pieces kind of started falling out of place. And then it's almost like, this is my analogy, right? You have a bunch of groceries in your arms, and you're rushing to get to the checkout, right? And something drops, and you're like, oh crap, and you bend over, and something else drops, and you're like, this is
Yeah,
my analogy, right? And you're rushing so much, and because you're rushing, you're dropping one thing and then you have to go pick that one up, right? So um, that's not a brilliant analogy, but that's kind of how it felt for me. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, but then she like reach back over here and then she'd reach back over here to gather this, right? To try and kind of put everything together. So,
Yeah, it's not really a spoiler, but it kind of is because the event happens like 30% into the book. So if you don't want spoilers, skip ahead a bit. I have no timestamps. The prologue is actually not really a prologue. It happens about 30% into the book. And it's not labeled with a character. So the first 30%, I was like, which one of these girls is going to die? Because there's only two point of view characters.
right.
But then when it happens 30% in, you're like, okay, well, it's probably not these two because I mean, it could have been, but then very quickly it's revealed that it's not. Um, and so I feel like that was structure wise, that was confusing to me. I would have rather had another point of view in there from the victim. I think that would have done it a lot of favors too. Like the prologue is well written. I was like, ooh, okay, this book's going to be really good.
Hmm.
And then it wasn't really a prologue. So
Right. Yeah. And it was, I agree. And it was really both the prologue and the epilogue were just completely, they were like bookends to this book, like literally. And the prologue, I think we definitely could have been gone without, but nothing within the book itself would have said anything about the epilogue,
yeah, like the
right?
prologue, it could have been removed without affecting the book.
Yeah.
But I think it would have also done the book a lot of favors, like putting it in at the 30% mark. And I mean, it is a hook.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is intriguing.
And truthfully, I didn't even catch that it was that person until I finished the book. I'm like, so who was this really at the beginning
Mm,
in the prologue, right? Because I mean, there's no names, it's just she. And though I also didn't remember that it was on a Friday night, so that would have made me realize, oh, who it was earlier.
hmm.
But, it's because those, some of those small things, if you're reading fast, I don't catch them. So,
Yeah, I thought for sure it was either Cass or Brooke, but it was
yeah,
neither of them. It could have
right,
been either of them, and then I assumed the other one would be the one
right,
solving the murder mystery.
right.
I was wrong.
So, and then because we know that she's murdered, who actually wrote it because she's dead?
Well, it happened before she died.
How could she write it when she, how could she have written it?
It's written in present tense. So,
Okay, maybe
but
that's,
how does it end? Yeah, and it ends when she dies. So
I'm sorry, but I just can't write about my own death unless I am a ghost.
she's
So I was
narrating the events leading up to it.
I was actually thinking there might be a ghost component to this
That
based
would have
on
been
the
cool.
based on the
Have you,
prologue and how
have you watched
I thought about it.
have you watched any Thai horror movies?
No.
They're pretty spooky. Some
Oh.
some of them that I've seen are pretty spooky. So
So not cozy horror?
no, I wouldn't call them cozy horror. There have been some that are I was kind of like, what's happening? But
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
there have been some where I'm like, oh, now I'm kind of spooked out. So
Hmm. That's good to know.
what question did I just ask? I can't remember.
One
Was it
about
anything?
the structure and flow,
Oh,
wasn't it
okay.
that one? Yeah.
Were you surprised by anything or any plot twist?
Yes, I was. But I was really quite disappointed in it. Even though it was really surprising, and to me, there was absolutely nothing that showed me who, and this really isn't a spoiler, but um, someone you find out really early someone has found out about what Cass has done in the past, and you don't know who that is. Um, there's some conjectures that you can make, but I didn't see any signs as to who it really was. And so that little thing did twist. Like, I was like, oh, whoa, that's different. But then the reason why the person was following her um, was really strange to me. Like, um, and I don't know if we want to go too deep into that, but
No, it's kind of a
yeah,
spoiler.
right. So, but yeah, I was just kind of disappointed a little bit in that.
Yeah, yeah. I would agree that the events were surprising. The events for why she was being blackmailed were surprising,
Hmm.
and the fact that Cass didn't want to be open about her past. Like, I mean, I guess I can understand why she would want to not talk about it, but why she would think that her fiance would break up with her and leave her because of it, um, seemed really
Right.
silly to me. Um, I guess trauma affects people differently, so maybe that's
True.
how she internalized it. Um, but I didn't personally find it a convincing reason to hide your past.
Right. Or convincing to go chase someone across the world.
That was Brooke. But
That
yeah,
was Brooke.
I
Yeah.
agree with that too for Brooke.
Although we just did a spoiler.
Kind of. You said someone, so
Okay. It's all good.
hopefully we're vague enough that people are like, "Huh? What is
What?
it?"
I don't know. Yeah. So, and anyway, yeah, that was my thought on the
Mhm.
twist. And well, there was technically another twist at the very end. I mean, I
I wasn't surprised by that one though. 'Cause,
I wasn't, but how it was done
yeah.
and revealed was
Hmm.
the twist. I think it
Yeah.
was
True.
how it was presented.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
So,
point.
yeah.
The next two questions are, which character stood out to you the most and why? And did you feel more connected to one over another? And those are so similar. I'll just combine them.
Yeah. So kind of so like I said about Frederick, like I didn't connect with him at all on any level whatsoever. With Cass for a little bit, I did when she was like was really confused, and at one point she thought she had killed everybody um, because there was a lot of gaslighting, right, and manipulation. And so when somebody who doesn't speak up for themselves and they have doubt about who they are, it's very easy to convince them, that kind of person, that it's their fault. And so, and I've been in similar, well, not that kind of situation, but where like when I was much younger, I wasn't able to really speak up for myself. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm always in the wrong. And, like, so I kind of felt a bit more able to relate to Cass in that instance, and kind of felt really bad for her. I was like, man, like she doesn't remember something, and like, well, it was really easy to kind of manipulate her because of her own view of herself, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And in regards to that, like I probably felt most connected to Brooke because a lot of times I'm such an introvert. So in a group setting, a lot of times I'm just like, I don't feel like I even know these people.
right,
And I don't know how to engage. Like I feel like an alien sometimes. So at the beginning, when Brooke's describing how she can't fit in, um, I probably feel like that in most social situations when there's three, four or more people
right.
together. Because they just get involved in conversation and I'm like, well, I'll just go sit in this corner here and watch you guys.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I feel like we should skip the next question because it would be a spoiler. I think there's only really one answer, seeing how most people die. And that question is which character could become a main character in a spin-off book. So we'll just
Depends on which one comes back from the living
right.
or comes back to the living. No. Yeah. Yeah, let's skip that one.
Okay. All right. How did the setting support the story?
Well, the bodies were found in areas,
Underwater.
in one in the water, right, and one um, which happened before the start of the book was the body
Oh, I
that
see. Okay. Yeah.
that was
Now you're
found.
doing a you're taking the question very literally. I was thinking more just like setting tropical worm, but you're
Oh
like, how did it
no,
actually
like
forward events? And you're right.
yeah,
You're right. You're taking it very. You're
it's
taking it
very
the way that it was meant to be.
literary, I guess.
Yeah.
In case, like it you know, it created different um, I guess, scenes for where bodies could be found, which was really good because then you had different areas like a hike and cliffs, and then you had water from with diving and scuba diving and everything. So that created different. I don't know what the right word is there, other than scene, but that's not the word I'm trying to look for. So, but it did help because it's not like when you are trying to write a lot of times, and I think a lot of us do this, is that we're just in this white room with, no description or whatnot, but having different areas where, these bodies are found, then you could really easily create a scene. So it was very believable. So, like this body in the water, and okay, well, what was around the body, and all these different things. And same with the cliffs and the rocks and the how far it was from the path that before she fell, that kind of stuff. So it really did make it a lot more believable, because there's those little details that just kind of help set the scene.
Yeah, I agree. Like the imagery was very well done in this book. At one point I was at work and I'm like, I just want to go home and read about the tropical Thailand island,
Right.
Thai island. Um, One thing I do wish she had added more in was the sense of smell. She talks about humidity and the heat
Mhm.
and the scenery, but I think the only time I really remember, I could be missing things, is when technically the third body is found and it's the overpowering reek of garbage, or maybe it was just before that when she was heading down an alley and there was an overpowering reek of garbage.
Mhm.
Um, but there's so much more to tropical countries. When you're walking down the street, you get hit with all these scents from all over the place, either
Right.
the
Food, like,
fauna or the
yeah.
flora, I guess, not the fauna. I'm hopefully not sniffing cats,
Right.
um, or the food, or yeah, it's just
Hmm.
smells from all over the place. So, and not
Or
all of them are good, but
even the ocean, like we
hmm
talked about, just the ocean breeze, the smell of the salts, that kind of thing.
yeah. So that
I
would have
mean,
just layered me in a level deeper
yeah,
into the
yeah.
setting.
I mean, even in that, you could even layer in taste, like the smell is so strong that I tasted it on my tongue, kind of thing.
Yeah, or the
Hmm.
bite of like a slightly sour mango or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and did the setting, well, we kind of also just answered this. This is our last question. We made it through those fairly quickly. Did the setting seem real to you? So I feel like it did. But the one thing that would make it more real is the adding in more sense of smell
Right. And having more locals and more
and having more
cultural,
locals. Yes.
because without that, it just is like any kind of island, right? There's nothing special about Hosang
Hmm.
without having more of the cultural aspects of it. It could be any island. So,
Hmm.
yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was our take on the resort. Um,
Shall
I
we
bought
end
mine on Amazon, so if you want to get a copy, I'm sure they're at all major retailers. So,
up? Yep. And I did mine on the Amazon ebook. So, but I do have our read for next month, which is called Son of the Storm by
let me
Suyi. Can you
let
see
me
it?
make you big.
Oh, son of the.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Where's your face? I don't know how to make you big.
It's okay. We'll put it in front of
No.
the camera. Okay. So he Davies Akungboa, son of the storm. So he is Nigerian born, and he is a creative writing. I think he's a professor, but don't quote me on that. But he teaches creative writing at least at the University of Ontario, if I remember correctly, but in Canada. So I'm looking forward to this. And he hasn't. Oh, this is also by Orbit. So just so we are aware.
Orbit Publishing. Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you for anyone who might come and watch this. If you would like to let us know what you thought of the book if you've read it, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you do read it, I wish you good times in your hammock. Have a
That's
good
right.
night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.